make sure that we establish communications with people for those that don't get the newspaper, don't have a radio, don't have telephone service, so that we make sure that we're not letting people fall through the cracks out there somewhere. So one of the things that I did in the Air Force, I was part of my job as a communications squadron commander was disaster recovery. The unit that I commanded down in Fort Walton Beach, Florida, we would monitor the hurricanes that came up through the Gulf Coast all the time. And part of my job was to ride the hurricane out. That was always a little bit dicey. But you had to stay there and then be part of the management team that led the recovery of not only the base but providing services to the local, because we had a commercial airport there too, and the federal agencies and the other state agencies had to be able to get into the area, and without an airport to fly into, it was very, very difficult. So I know a little bit about that kind of stuff and setting up emergency management procedures, and I've offered that experience to those that want to listen. So I understand that, but I'm going to ask Rachel. Let's make sure that we ask when we get out of here, and then we'll communicate back to you, Roger, about the availability of generators and where they are. I would find it hard to believe that if your EMA has reached out to the state agency and said we need generators, that they're not being provided within Monroe County somewhere, so that your residents aren't having to drive all the way to Caldwell.
Yeah, I just know what my renter said.
That's okay. I understand.
And also, like the water, different things are being distributed. Our area out there, nobody knew about it until some of the people went to town, and they said, well, there are people in your area that need water? Yeah. And then so they got a whole carload out there. But that was our local people went. No, there was no communications.
Well, communications have been down. A lot of the problem is that communications have been down. And that makes it, hey folks, how are y'all? Welcome.
Thank you.
Communications have been down, and it makes it extremely difficult.
I'm sitting here down a little bit cooler.
Just at 1 o'clock, I received a phone call at the house saying, if you still don't have power, here's the number to call for South Central, here's the Washington Cooperative, here's AEP, and make sure they know they have a work order for your house.
Mm-hmm. Now, I will tell you that Washington Cooperative, the power company, they have got a serious problem. There are a lot of their customers that are still without power, and I think the AEP's plan to have 95% restoration done by Saturday. The 5% that's not going to be done, a lot of those are Washington Cooperative customers. They lost a lot of their distribution system. I heard, I haven't seen it myself, but I heard that there was like 10 miles of lines and poles that were completely destroyed. And at one point, we were cautioned that parts of Interstate 70 were going to have to be shut down because AEP was going to be working in that area, having to reroute major segments of their distribution system. So I know that the Washington Cooperative customers are struggling a bit, and probably will continue to do so until AEP can free up some of their resources to get them out there.
Keyword. This guy, young man's name, who's EMA director. Slipped from mind, but EMA.
Jeremy Keeler?
Pardon me?
Mr. Chairman?
No. They're listed in the phone book, and they are out at the airport, by the way. I don't know whether you ever get a chance to fly in place or not, but we got a really nice little airport.
I know. Woodsfield is a nice place. Well,
How many places that the airport is across the street from the Commerce Park?
I don't own an airplane.
You've got buddies who can
Flying around.
Well, no, that's not allowed either.
buy the fuel.
not allowed either. I can't let my buddies fly me around either. I have to either own the airplane or do that myself. So, you know, with a district this big, it sure would be nice to have an airplane, though, have access to do something like that.
Well, I forget when you become an elected official, you really have to have that hanky there to keep your nose clean.
We definitely do. We have to do that. That's what the taxpayers expect. Other questions? Other questions?
And this is actually something for the Senate, but I don't know.
Yeah, and you can ask me any question. I mean, we're okay here. I just didn't want, I wanted to make sure you knew that, you know, with so many of your folks here in the county hurting, we're not out campaigning here today.
Right. There's another UN treaty that's been approved and signed and sent to the Senate for ratification on the rights of persons with disabilities. Probably being able to come through the Senate, you've probably heard a whole lot about that.
Rights of persons with disabilities.
Yeah.
No, that has not come before the House yet.
Now, is that strictly the Senate?
I will look into it. I'll look into it and find out where
There's
where it
an
is.
email copy we cut off the email.
Well, I'm going to tell you that you know, one of the things that concerns me so much is a lot of the information that comes across email. You know, there's been an effort to divide us as a people from the beginning of time. Certainly since our country was founded, there's been an element trying to divide good people. I don't know where they start, but the internet, and I'm an IT geek. You know, I spent most of my career in information technology, and it's a very, very powerful tool. It can also be abused. You know, they'll package things up in what looks like a very formal, credible, respectable way. They'll mix a little bit of truth with a whole lot of fiction and get people all stirred up about nothing. And so I have not heard about this, but I will look into it, and we'll get you an answer back.
As I mentioned to you before, John, we're from the East Texas. How supportive of you are the development? You know, this is a rural area, a lot of poverty out here. The development of minerals here can turn this area around. And I'm just curious.
Very supportive. I sit on the Natural Resources Committee, and I sit on the subcommittee for minerals and mining. In fact, I'm one of the leaders in the House Republican Conference on the issue of energy, particularly going after the Marcellus and the Utica Shale, developing our nation's own natural resources. You know, if we really wanted a true all-of-the-above energy policy, energy could be the next great horizon and adventure for the American people. Some of these folks have heard me say this before, but you guys probably have not. I know that your representative down in Texas can remember sitting on the House floor back in March of 2011 when the Prime Minister of Australia spoke to a joint session of Congress. She started her speech off by saying, you know, she said, I can remember being a young girl and sitting on the floor of my living room watching Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin land on the moon, thinking to myself, wow, those Americans can do anything. And she went on through her speech to give many examples of how Australia and America had stood together to face the world's problems, how America had stood in front of Australia and protected her during World War II. She ended her speech, she said, you know, today I'm not that young girl. Today I'm the Prime Minister of our country.